You hear the sounds of the world, the river flowing, or the melodies that are already present in the air, or the melodies that are floating around in your own head or in your own heart. And by listening, you can grab on to those waves and ride them and then express them. But if you don't listen and feel them yourself, you have no basis for expression. The melodies and the songs are all there. Bob Dylan once said, "All the songs have been written, we're just a vessel through which they pour." A song comes to me in very different ways. Some songs come as an entire entity, just completed, and they just flow through me, and the words and the music are all there. And it's as startling to me as it is to the person who might be listening. Sometimes I will have written a poem several years ago, and then I'll write a piece of music, and the two of them will come together. So they're all different. It always happens in different ways, and I have to be ready for anything. I usually am inspired by melody and sometimes by a philosophical thought. But I'm not a purposeful writer. My writing is more of an inspiration of a feeling and an emotion. I don't craft stories like some writers do. I mostly take photographs of a beautiful feeling, and that's what I try to express. Sometimes I have a story that I want to tell, but really the story wants to be told, so it's not even my own purpose, it's the story's purpose. There are so many stories floating around, and I think when it's time for a story to be told, if I happen to be in the right place at the right time, it'll become my story to tell. Music is a sacred experience for me with the earth. It's not something that I am in control of. I feel that the songs come to me when the time is right. When I was very young, the Weavers were the first group that I really heard perform, and Pete Seeger was, of course, one of my earliest inspirations. I remember hearing him at Carnegie Hall when I was 3, and he looked out at the audience when he was about to start to sing "Goodnight, Irene," and he asked how many sopranos were in the audience, and I raised my hand. I was 3, and he looked down at me and he said, "Yes, you are a soprano, aren't you?" And it was just this instant contact of knowing that I was going to be up there someday. When I was a teenager, I met Chita Rivera, who was playing Rosie in Bye Bye Birdie, and I had an opportunity to go backstage, and we sat and talked for about a half hour together. And I had been accepted into Music and Art High School and was considering pursuing a career as a musician as early as 9th grade. And I asked her if she thought that was a good idea. And she said no. She said it was too early to really choose and to direct my whole life to my music. She said it would be better for me to have a normal teenage life and be in a regular school situation and get a really good education. And then if I really still wanted to do the music, it would still be there waiting for me, and my talent would still be there, and my drive would still be there, and I would have something to fall back on. And I took her advice, and I'm glad I did. Other artists, Bob Dylan. I studied Bob Dylan extensively in college, did my honors thesis at Barnard College on Bob Dylan as my thesis was that he was as much a product of the times as he made the times. Joan Baez, Judy Collins, the female singers that I grew up with, Linda Ronstadt, Bonnie Raitt, and Woody Guthrie, of course. And then my own friends, my own songwriter friends, Richie Strell, Jerry Tenney, the people who are writing songs today, who I share music with all the time. keeps music relevant to me now. Kate Wolf was a songwriter from Santa Rosa, California, and I was told by some California friends of mine that I should listen to her because I was like, my sister was over there in California singing and writing songs. And I remember listening to a Kate Wolf song once driving over Bromley Mountain, thinking that the tremendous connection that I felt with her and the love that I have for her voice and the way she makes me feel when she sings, if I could make one person feel that way when I sang, that my life would be complete. That's how deeply she moves me. I graduated from Barnard in 1970, which means I was at Columbia during the riots of 1969 when we occupied Philosophy Hall, and I was part of that. I was in Washington for the Vietnam March in 1969. I was tear gassed.
Now is the time.
And I was also with Martin Luther King in 1963. I went to Washington. So that was my time.
Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time.
My father counseled draft dodgers in the Vietnam War. He was a pacifist, and he instilled in me a sense of the wrongness of war. I was raised believing in the United Nations and believing in NATO and believing in the possibility of people talking and solving differences, because another world war would wipe us all out. So there had to be other solutions. And the Vietnam War was just the same old answer again. So there was no way that I could feel any way except hatred and anathema for war as a solution to the world's problems. There was no choice for a person of conscience during those years other than to go to Washington and be there marching for integration and then again for peace and disarmament. I have a friend who would do anything to avoid the draft, and he read the entire manual of ways that you could be excluded from the draft and decided that the most reasonable of all of them was if you were missing the top joint of your trigger finger or 2 joints of your middle finger, you would be excused. So he got drunk one night and shot off these 2 joints of his middle finger so that he would avoid the draft.
Won't you listen, listen to my song, Daddy, this is where I belong.
Vermont is a natural world. To write and to compose, I need my privacy. I need to be alone with the natural world. So I live here because I have my space. I have my little piece of heaven right here.
Summer melodies, don't you know it's for you I'm singing this song, baby, this is where I belong. Oh, Daddy, this is where I belong. Oh, honey, this is where I belong. Coming from the mountains, sun and moon above, sing out for joy, sing out for sorrow, $1 in my pocket and half a tank of gas. I reach the final exit